Have you ever held on to anger so tightly that it felt like it was eating you from the inside? Have you ever noticed that the more you hate someone, the more restless and unhappy you become, even when they are not around? What if I told you that every thought of revenge, every grudge you carry, is like swallowing poison? Today, stay with me, because this story will reveal why hatred is a slow, silent killer, how it traps our minds, and how the teachings of the Buddha guide us toward freedom from it. Hello everyone, welcome back to Buddha and Mindfulness, the place where we explore profound lessons about the mind, inner peace, and how to live free from the heavy burdens of anger and hatred. Today's story is both powerful and cautionary. It will show you how the poison of resentment silently destroys us, how revenge never brings lasting happiness, and how understanding these truths can help us live in peace, compassion, and clarity. But first, don't forget to subscribe to Buddha and Mindfulness to support us in sharing new stories every day. Hatred is never harmless. It is a destructive force that affects every aspect of our lives. When we cling to resentment, it is like swallowing poison. Our mind becomes restless, our body suffers, our sleep becomes troubled, and our meals lose their taste. We carry the weight of grudges without realizing it, and this weight grows heavier over time. Ignorance and ego make people blind to the harm they cause themselves when they harbor hatred. Often, when someone treats us unfairly, or when events do not go as we wish, we react with anger or resentment. But instead of harming the other person, we are harming ourselves. Even the pleasure of seeing someone else fail or suffer is false happiness, a temporary satisfaction that ultimately harms us and generates bad karma. Wise people must recognize this clearly, understanding that nurturing resentment is choosing poison over peace. Consider how resentment affects daily life. When someone carries hatred in their heart, even ordinary moments are filled with suffering. Eating becomes joyless because the mind is preoccupied with thoughts of anger. Sleeping is disturbed as the heart churns with grievances, and the smallest success of a rival can feel like a personal loss. Even when the enemy suffers, if one feels joy, it is a perverse satisfaction that harms one's own spirit. This cycle of suffering is exactly what the Buddha teaches in the Dhammapada. Sowing suffering for others while seeking happiness for oneself, bound by hatred, cannot escape from hatred. Resentment never brings true relief. It only binds us in chains that tighten over time. Hatred can be subtle, even when we think we are justly reacting. Yet every angry thought creates ripples of pain inside our own minds, and sometimes in the lives of others as well. To illustrate this truth, let us turn to the story of King Luyu, son of King Batsunak. King Batsunak was a ruler who respected the Buddhist teachings and sought to unite with the Shakya clan. The Shakya family, however, was not willing, so Batsunak married the daughter of a servant woman, and she gave birth to Prince Luyu. One day, when the young prince visited his maternal home, a maid made a joking remark about his seat. This small comment, overheard by the prince, planted a seed of resentment that would grow into a lifelong grudge. As he grew older, Luyu never forgot the slight, and he vowed revenge, letting hatred shape his ambition and decisions. When King Batsunak went to a monastery to hear the Buddha speak, he left his treasures and royal symbols in the care of attendants. These attendants, biased and opportunistic, handed these symbols to Prince Luyu, who seized the chance to take the throne. King Batsunak, upon discovering what happened, asked his nephew, King Ajatashu, to lead an army against Luyu. Exhausted by the journey and caught in heavy rain, King Batsunak fell ill and passed away, leaving Luyu to ascend the throne, his heart still consumed by vengeance. He then led his army to massacre the Shakya family, showing how hatred can escalate into violence and tragedy. The Buddha personally intervened twice to advise Luyu, teaching through symbolism. Sitting under a bare tree, he contrasted it with a lush tree nearby, demonstrating that acting out of familial resentment only brings harm, not comfort. The first 2 times, Luyu partially heeded the teaching, retreating momentarily, but still determined to seek revenge. On the 3rd attempt, the Buddha did not intervene, understanding that the karmic destiny of the Shakya lineage was unfolding. After completing his act of revenge, Luyu's army was swept away by floods as they rested near a river, and he himself died, falling into hell. Revenge had brought him no joy, only disaster. This story exemplifies how hatred, even when justified in our minds, leads to suffering and ruin. Through this story, we see clearly that resentment and revenge are forms of self-poisoning. They destroy our peace, harm our body and mind, and generate bad karma that returns inevitably. Holding on to hatred binds us to suffering, making joy impossible and freedom elusive. The Buddha's wisdom teaches us to let go of anger, cultivate compassion, and practice forgiveness. True happiness is never built upon the suffering of others. By releasing hatred, we open the door to a life of clarity, peace, and joy. Hatred may feel like power or protection in the moment, but it is always temporary. The moment we relax, reflect, or see the bigger picture, we recognize that holding on to grudges only prolongs our pain, isolates us emotionally, and blinds us to true connection with others. Even small acts of resentment ripple outward, harming not just ourselves, but the community and the next generation, creating patterns that repeat unless consciously transformed. For all who follow the path of mindfulness, take this story as a gentle but firm reminder. When anger or resentment arises, pause, breathe, and observe it without judgment. Notice the physical and mental tension it creates. Reflect on the impermanence of both pleasure and pain, understanding that clinging to negativity is voluntary suffering. By replacing hatred with compassion, even for those who wrong us, we break the cycle of karmic return and cultivate a mind that is steady, clear, and joyful. This practice, though simple in words, is profound in impact and forms the foundation for genuine peace and happiness. Thank you for joining us today on Buddha and Mindfulness. Remember, letting go of hatred is not a sign of weakness, but of wisdom and courage. When we release resentment, we protect ourselves from harm, we allow our hearts to rest, and we create a life of harmony and peace. Practice compassion, nurture understanding, and avoid sowing suffering for others, because the harm you create for them always returns. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Buddha and Mindfulness, so together we can spread teachings of wisdom, peace, and mindful living to all who seek the path of liberation.